I am reading a book called Lost Connections: Why You're Depressed and How to Find Hope. Lost Connections and Why You're Depressed and How to Find Hope by Johann Hari. I hope I'm saying this. Johann Hari. I hope I'm saying it correctly. I'm going to put a link to the book in the show notes. But it's about depression and anxiety. Now, I'm not one of those people. I'll run the disclaimer immediately. I'm not one of those people who are really down on medication for depression and anxiety. I know too many people who have tried too many things, and the medication, when they get the medication right, it really handles the depression and the anxiety. So I'm not saying that that's a problem. Be real clear on that. What I am saying is what I learned in this book, and what I know to be true, is that there are a lot of factors that go into depression and anxiety. For me, my anxiety comes from believing my thoughts. I have a very specific way of handling those things that bring me down. But in this book, Lost Connections, Johann Hari has a premise that before you go on drugs, or even when you're on the drugs, there's things that you should look at in your life. So just like when the doctor says, you're overweight, would you like this diet pill? Instead of looking at your diet and exercise, Johann looks at this and says, are you checking these things in your life that are essential to human wellness and into well-being before you're putting yourself on these drugs? Because psychiatrists and doctors, that's what they do. I'm not faulting them entirely, a little bit, but I have doctors who always ask me, how am I eating? Am I exercising? How are my relationships? So let's look at this. He says there's 9 causes to depression and anxiety. So let's look at these. And while I'm saying these nine causes, think about how they are working in your life. I did this with my mastermind, the Mastering Midlife Mastermind, and I was amazed at how well, people were amazed at how well they were doing in some areas, and how some areas were really, really low on the totem pole of what they've been paying attention to and what they've been giving value to. And they saw that where that was a detriment to their life and their well-being. So here, I'm going to go through them slowly. Disconnection from meaningful work. Disconnection from meaningful work. So if you go to a job that you don't like, day in and day out, or you sell something you don't believe in day in and day out, you're doing something that really doesn't help your soul. It doesn't mean that you can't find meaning in it. I've talked to a lot of people, blossom where you plant. Let's find some meaning in what you're doing so you can move on to the next thing. But if you don't have meaningful work, that's and you're not connected to why you do it. Even when I was a breakfast waiter, I remember my friend Rosa said to me, you meet important people in the restaurant that you work in, heads of state, you're the first person they see. And I could find meaning in being a breakfast waiter, in how I treated people and how I started their day. The second is disconnection from others. So your relationships, your friendships are so important. And again, adult men are really bad at this, really, really bad at making friends. I am so blessed that I had been in 12-step programs, because that taught me how to make adult friends, how to ask people, hey, do you want to go out for a cup of coffee? Do you want to go bowling? Do you want to do something? I've figured that one out. But most men I know do not know how to make friends. So disconnection from other people. The next is disconnection from meaningful values. What do you care about in your life? What's important? What's the gap between what you say is important in your life and how you're actually acting? So if you say that family is so high on your list of values, but you're working all the time, it's time to look at that. So disconnection from meaningful values. The other is a disconnection from childhood trauma. We all have trauma. We all have trauma. Let me say it again. We all have trauma. And sometimes we think it's minimal, like I wasn't beaten, there was no blood, I was just ignored as a kid, or something like that, or the divorce and my father left, and those are traumas. I'm not saying that you need to live in the past and navel gaze until you are completely crippled. What I'm saying is that a disconnection from childhood trauma is acknowledging it. What was it like to be a 5-year-old? Not what is it like to be a 50-year-old remembering something. What was it like to be a 5-year-old and have your mother scream at you? What was it like to be a 6-year-old and be left on the street corner and nobody picked you up? And what decisions and choices and things about life did you decide from that thing? So it's not about, oh, I was beaten and left in a ditch. It's what shaped you as a child that you're living out of as an adult. And when you look at those things, they start to lighten up and you can drop those sandbags, because that inner 5-year-old, that inner 7-year-old is still holding on to it. Disconnection from status and respect. This one I had trouble with, this one, because I try not to look for status and respect. I try not to look for my value outside, but it's true. You want to be respected. I put, I'm putting this podcast out. I want the notes that say, hey, you made a difference in my life. It makes a difference to me. It lifts me up when someone says something that I did made an impact. So that kind of respect is really, really actually important. Now, we can't get our value from it, but if it's missing, it's another piece in the puzzle to our well-being, and it contributes to depression and anxiety. Disconnection from the natural world. This one's a huge one. I live near parkland, so I really pay attention to the fact that we walk our dogs and I get to hike in natural places. I get to sit in my backyard. But if you live in the city, if you're in an office all the time, how are you getting your connection to nature? We are natural beings. We're animals. We need to somehow be in the rhythm with the earth. Have you walked on the ground without shoes? I put a fish tank in my living room. So I sit and I look at the fish tank. So I'm very fortunate. I have a lovely saltwater reef in my living room. So I feel that connection to nature. Can you get out, even if it's in the city, and look at the trees? One of my clients has a tree right outside his house, his apartment in New York, and he's named that tree. So he takes pictures of it all the time. And that's his connection to nature. Disconnection from hopeful or secure future. Your well-being, and I say this all the time to people who feel trapped in their jobs, your well-being is very connected to how many opportunities you feel you have. If you are reading Twitter and you're reading the news and you see doom and gloom all the time, or if you're constantly waiting for the shoe to drop, that's going to affect your happiness, your well-being, and your groundedness and centeredness. So disconnection from a hopeful and secure future. The other is genes, and the other is brain changes. So 8 and 9 are genes and brain changes. And again, those are medical things that need to be dealt with. There are chemicals imbalance. There are people who are depressed and have anxiety that have organic reasons for that, and that medication will help. So let me go through them real quickly, and I'll put them in the show notes. Disconnection from meaningful work, disconnection from other people, disconnection from meaningful values, disconnection from childhood trauma, disconnection from status and respect, disconnection from the natural world, disconnection from a hopeful or secure future. And man, the media is just doing everything we can so we don't feel that. Our genes and brain changes. The book, again, is Lost Connections, Why You're Depressed and How to Find Hope, by Johann Hari. My goal is to have Johann on the show to talk about this, but pick up the book. But even if you don't pick up the book, check out these 9 things and see how you can shore up some of them, because they will increase your level of happiness. Again, your time and attention and your respect for my status is so important to me. I love you guys a ton. Have a great rest of the day.